Semper Fidelis and Carpe Diem to you. I'm General Mickey. That's Empress Candice. That's Consul Gerard. Today on Cancel Weekly, we have a special Roman Empire episode for you guys. First, we have Joe Rogan and Jimmy Carr talking about the Roman Empire. We have the Empress of Rome. We have Julius Caesar quotes. We have, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? But first, we have quotes from the Stoic himself, Marcus Aurelius. All this on Canceled Weekly.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars, and see yourself running with them. Think constantly on the changes of the elements into each other, for such thoughts wash away the dust of earthly life. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
My man dropping
Everything
bars.
we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts.
Come on.
Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart.
Yo, my dog's spitting. Empress Candice, would you please, you have the floor.
I mean, that was amazing. I love Marcus Aurelius. We have so many, like his meditations book and all of Ryan Holiday's interpretations. I love Stoicism. I think so many people can benefit from it because it just like takes your victim mentality out of it. And it's how can I appreciate this moment fully, even if there's a Benjamin Franklin explanation where he's just like watching his building on fire, and isn't it so beautiful? Watch the flames. And I think if we had more of that with our life, wouldn't it be easier? And then also the quote with the stars makes me a little bit pissed off. I'm not gonna lie, because I hate that we can't see our stars.
Ooh.
I think it's insane, and I will have my little tin hat.
Talking about light pollution?
Yeah, I think that, when you can disconnect people from what is greater than them and like you rob them of inspiration and connectiveness, like it seems like maybe it's a concerted effort. I don't know. But I think you have the right to see the universe that you're a part of, and so many of us don't get that.
I agree. Two things I took from that. One, with the Stoicism, it kind of reminds me of that serenity prayer. Like, accept the things I cannot change and help me change the things I need to change. Also, manifestation. What your thoughts are, you become. Mm-hmm. If your thoughts are bad, you become bad. If you know what I mean. If your thoughts, what do you say? If your thoughts are gray, you become gray, or something like that.
Your soul is painted with the color of your thoughts.
Yes. So I like that. I feel like he's so ahead of his time. We talked about him a couple episodes ago. This dude was the Emperor of Rome. He had it all. He ruled the world for all intents and purposes. And instead of being, like a glutton, having women and wine and gold and all that stuff, he chose discipline. And he chose, his brain to think and to be happy on the small things. And I think he's a great example for everybody.
Yeah, well, he ruled the European world and maybe the African world. The Han Chinese would have a claim to that as well. But Stoicism is what I think nihilists think they are, right? Like, Stoicism isn't not thinking anything matters. Stoicism is knowing things matter and being measured in your response. To me, Stoicism is true maturity. It's somebody that is understands value, sees value, and understands the value in having emotion, feeling emotion, and controlling and processing emotion. It's true maturity. I think everybody could endeavor to be a Stoic. I think the original Stoic wasn't Marcus Aurelius. Don't they say like Plato was the original Stoic? A former athlete.
Plato was his teacher, but then Plato's teacher was I messed up that name.
Epictetus?
Yeah, and that was
Something like
Plato's
that? I don't think
teacher.
that was right.
Yeah, then Aristotle's in there. I always get these timelines mixed up.
I was going to actually ask you where they went.
You know, one of the things I love about Marcus Aurelius is that he, for whatever reason, we know his Latin name. We call him by his Latin name. It's Marcus Aurelius. Like, you know, how come he's not Mark Aurel, you know, or something like that? Like Mark Antony is Marcus Antonius. Why do we know him as Mark Antony? Is it only because Shakespeare didn't make a play about Marcus Aurelius? We know his actual name.
I have no idea. What was Julius Caesar? He was like Gaius Julii or something?
They didn't have the letter J. There was no J. There was no Julius. And
the Julian calendar was one of the contributions of him,
Julian.
No?
He was of the family of the house Julii. It was his last name. It was his family name.
I messed that up in Spanish too.
Julii, yeah. His name was Gaius.
Hugo.
Gaius.
Gaius.
It was Gaius. And Caesar, or which would have been pronounced Kaiser, yeah.
Sounded rather German.
Kaiser. This is where they got the name from.
Oh.
Yeah, Kaiser is a Caesar.
That's where the Nazis got that thing.
The Third Reich means Third Kingdom. What do you think the first kingdom was?
Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
What was the second?
There's some argument about that, whether it was the Prussian Empire or the Holy Roman Empire. There's some argument about the interpretation of it. But, yeah, because the Holy Roman Empire, the big joke is it was neither holy nor Roman. You know,
that was Charlemagne.
Yeah, that's right. Charlemagne and his.
That was in like the 800s?
800s, yeah. Yeah.
And Rome was supposed to fall, allegedly fell. We'll get into that. But in the 400,
it's the fall of Rome.
460 something.
Yes, and I would like to apologize to my Romophiles. You know that I am a barbarian council. Not only am I of Celtic descent, but I also am wearing the mark of the Barbary.
The beard.
I have not cleaned my face, and therefore I've shamed not only me
but
but my
Celtic
whole family.
And Germanic.
This is definitely post-Alaric Roman episode here. This is not exactly. But
she's a Jap Jew.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
The Empress.
How do you let these single god occultists from the East come upon our mighty empire? Yeah. Do you know they believe in monogamy? These sheep herders, they are beneath us. Send Pontius Pilate. He'll bring them to heel.
Well, we can get into that debate over whether the Roman Empire really fell or not. Joe Rogan and Jimmy Carr have some thoughts on it.
It's crazy how empires rise and fall.
I got a hot take on this.
Please.
I don't think they do. I don't think the Roman Empire fell. I think it became a church. Rome fell, but the Roman Empire became the church. Where's all the money from the Roman Empire?
The Vatican.
In the basement of the Vatican is where it is, yeah. So Roman Empire became a church. British Empire became a bank. We gave our empire back. We said, oh yeah, sorry about that. You can have that back. We gave, Saudi Arabia back and all these other places that we'd sort of we'd taken the resources, and then they had their own money. And then we went, oh well, what are you doing with that money? Because we've got this thing called the City of London. I tell you what, it's your money, but we're going to hold it. We'll have it over here. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
I remember the first time I saw that, my mind was blown.
Yeah.
I was like,
whoa. Interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so true because what we think of as the fall of the Rome is really the fall of Western Rome. And what we think of as the Byzantine Empire, they just thought of as Rome. And one of my favorite things about reading history, huge nerd, by the way, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, you're a giant. You're like 300 pounds and a nerd.
And a nerd.
They don't make too many of them. Well, nowadays they do.
Yeah. So Emperor Justinian, who I believe we might talk about later, he gets a hair up his ass, and he says, I'm the chosen one. I am going to reunite the Roman Empire. We can't be Roman without Rome, right? We can't be Roman if we don't preside over Rome. How can we call ourselves true Romans? So he starts going west again, where it all, in the Byzantine Empire, everything was about the East and the spice trade and everything, right? And so he starts going west, and he reconquers these Roman provinces. And as he's going through the farmlands and these small towns on the outskirts of the former Roman Empire, he's coming through as a conquering hero. Congratulations, my Romans, I have liberated you. You are now Romans again. And these guys are looking at each other like, when did we stop being Romans?
Yeah, I didn't know we weren't
What the hell was
Romans.
go- So the
Who
Roman,
I've been paying my taxes to?
exactly. That's literally what they started asking. They were
Yeah.
like, "Fuck is what? What's going on here? Who
Yeah,
have I
what
been
you
paying
talking
tribute?
about?
Who's this Roman Empire? I thought it was weird he had a German name." And the barbarians, the Germans that came down, or I believe it was the Visigoths who came down. They just sat in the Rome. They kept the Roman Senate. They named themselves emperor. But the people on the outskirts, outside of the urban areas. This is 75 years after the quote-unquote fall of Rome. They had no clue Rome had fell. They had no idea. They were like, oh, well, okay, cool.
So when you say fall, is it you're not saying structurally, or are you saying politically, or what is if all these citizens had no idea what was the quote fall?
Okay, great question, and that's the right question. We talk about presentism a lot. The idea of the nation state, that as we know it today, what we've grown up in, is a remarkably new term. What Rome was back in the day would be more considered like a league of fiefdoms, right? Like you had your little towns and your little town centers, your castles where the elites were, right? And then the townsfolk from outside had to pay tribute for protection. Basically, it was like, think of it like paying a cover fee. Like, hey, I'll give you 100 bushels of grain a year, and then if somebody comes raiding us, I get to go hide in the castle. Cool? Okay, cool. Yeah, you're part of our little fiefdom. And then the big army comes to the castle and goes, hey, so we can either siege you and kill all yous, or you guys can come under the Roman Emperor, and then you're going to pay us, but you get cool shit like roads and togas and orgies. So these people would come on board and be like, you know what? Yeah, Rome sounds pretty good. It's all right. Not such a big deal. And they would go from city to city, town to town, city-state to city-state. And the people that didn't want to do it ended up being nomadic, like the Celts, who we know as the Irish now. They started in like Turkey. And then they just kept getting pushed literally into the sea, right? So the idea of the quote-unquote fall of Rome is very misunderstood because we look at it through the lens of present times. But really what it came down to is the money and the political structure disappeared and were taken over.
Well, I actually have an additional video kind of further illustrating that point that you're making right now. Christian, could you run that one for me?
Everybody knows that the Roman Empire fell in 476 AD. You can read this in every school book, so problem solved, right? But wait, didn't the Roman institutions, cities and infrastructure actually continue unchanged in the West into the new Germanic kingdoms? Didn't Charlemagne even revive the Western Roman Empire in the early 800s? Didn't the success of the Holy Roman Empire actually persist in the West until 1806 AD? But wait, actually the Eastern Roman Empire, which was legitimately the surviving half of the actual Roman Empire, survived until 1453 AD, when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks. But wait, didn't the last Eastern Roman rump state survive actually for a few years more? But didn't actually the Ottoman Emperor call himself also Emperor of Rome? So wasn't that actually a continuation of the Roman Empire? But wait, didn't many Greeks call themselves Romaioi even long after Constantinople fell, and even in the 19th century in rural areas you could still find Greeks calling themselves Romans? But wait, isn't Roman culture, language, architecture and law still shaping Western culture even today? So you see, it is no wonder that many people actually believe that the Roman Empire never really fell, only that it transformed over many centuries into our modern nations that we have today.
Ooh, I like that. And now we're going to get into the six Roman,
that'd
was it
make
the
your
6
Roman
Roman
dick hard.
families, the 13 Roman families, the Rothschilds are an original Roman family. Have you guys ever
Right.
seen that one?
No.
Oh, now we're getting into crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy
I
theories.
love it.
Yeah, Christian, while we continue this discussion, start looking that up. That's the conspiracy theory about some people say it's 6, some people say it's 7, some people say it's 13 papal families. The Rothschilds are an original Roman family, and they still controlling the world, the Illuminati. That's a fun one if you want to get down a rabbit hole there. But I love that, man, because it's so true. Like, it's not like this wealth just disappeared. The aristocracy changes from hand to hand, place to place. You know, empires rise and fall. Greece is gone for how many thousand years? We still have hairy women. It's not like, you know, these things evolve, man. Even like you think, like you said, the word Caesar, Kaiser, the Tsar. We still look at the Tsar.
Right.
Tsar was essentially a slang word for Caesar. So the Russian king was calling himself Tsar. He was calling himself Caesar.
Yeah.
You know, I personally, I obviously geek out on Rome. I love Rome.
I can't tell at all.
I geek out on this stuff. But you know, there's another clip, Christian, you can play that basically
Gerard
sums up
looks
what
like this under his toga right now.
Rock hard.
Gerard is
I love this shit. Oh God, I love it. I really do. I could talk about this shit forever. Play the Sopranos clip because it basically says what that clip says, but in a much funnier, much more
simpler
concise way.
More
Yeah.
concise, yeah.
You ever heard of the Masada? For 2 years, 900 Jews held their own against 15,000 Roman soldiers. They chose death before enslavement. And the Romans, where are they now?
You're looking at him, asshole.
Yeah. So I think for men, all right, I don't see women geek out on the Roman Empire nearly as much as like men do. But I think for men, there's something about having your destiny in your own hands that is like
Hell yeah.
really appealing. Like this idea that, man, if it was the Roman times, nobody would have been able to stick me with a sword. I could have.
Everyone thinks that, though, and most of the guys are going to be the ones getting stuck.
A lot of people got stuck.
Yeah, lots
A lot
of
of people got
people
stuck.
are on the receiving end.
Maybe the useless plebs.
Well, hey, speaking of, you mentioned Justinian before.
Yeah.
And speaking of women in Rome, we have an empress.
Born into the lowest class of Roman society, Theodora's life took an extraordinary turn as she advanced to become co-ruler of the glorious Eastern Roman Empire. Through her marriage to Emperor Justinian the Great, Theodora was officially crowned empress upon his ascension in 527. Serving as Justinian's chief advisor, she held great influence in his decisions, plans, and political strategies. He regarded her as a true equal, affectionately referring to her as his partner in deliberations, a perspective unheard of in the era. During the Nika Revolt, a massive mob uprising that threatened to engulf the capital, Justinian briefly considered fleeing the city before Theodora dissuaded him, saying, "Those who have worn the crown should never survive its loss. Never will I see the day when I am not saluted as empress." Her stirring words galvanized the emperor, who stayed to command his loyal troops in destroying the rebels, ultimately rescuing the city from the brink of chaos.
I will go down with this ship. I won't throw my hands up and surrender. No,
What
no
a
one?
Can't
badass,
hit those notes.
though.
That
Right?
that
She's
actually
fierce.
doesn't even cover it for real. She was a whore, basically. She was an actress and a stripper and a whore, and they gave her death threats. They called her a witch, a sorceress, that she had Justinian under some sort of spell. And then when she was going to leave, the quote is much longer and it's even more badass. She was like, "I lived in the streets. I'll die in the castle."
Yes.
Yeah, like she was.
Yes,
she
queen.
wasn't
Go,
having
girl.
it. Yeah, Theodora is a baddie, man, for sure. And then Justinian ended up succumbing, or he got the plague, and it didn't kill him, but it fucked him up real bad. And she basically ran the show for a long time. Theodora is a real G.
See, and then that goes against all of this red pill nonsense, which is if you are an alpha man, you just want a submissive, mindless little cleaning robot. It's you want someone to go to war with. You want someone that is not going to be panicking and she's going to support you and elevate you. And what I learned when I was trying to find clips for this episode was that was really common for the women of the Roman times, is that any man that kind of reached a certain status had a wife that was kind of behind him, pushing him, motivating him, and propping him up. So it was very much like a team effort. She just was in the background while he was, the face of whatever achievement he was getting. So this idea that I don't know, like it's just all about the man, it's kind of never been true. I mean, even when we had like first examples of democracy, you would have the inner circle of men, and they would wrestle with ideas in politics, and then when they finally came up with a conclusion, there's an outer circle of the women and the wives, and they would bring it to the women, and the women would say yes or no, and then they would be kind of like the final pass as to whether that idea had been worked out enough and is complete, and if not, she'd toss it back to the men, and then they'd have to wrestle with it again. So we are meant to complement each other, and we can point out each other's blind spots and shadows, and if it's just the masculine, you're going to miss a whole lot, and if it's just the feminine, you're going to miss a whole lot. So this idea that we're supposed to be soft with our high heels and our red lipstick, baking our freaking waffles and not doing anything else is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. So we're warrior women forever. This
sure.
is a great example.
Shield maidens in the Viking times. They
Yeah.
talk about it in the Federalist Papers. Madison, I think it was, that was talking about when they were having their debates about whether women should vote or not in this new country. For anybody that hasn't read the Federalist Papers, it's really interesting. It's like Twitter from the 1780s. They're going back and forth debating, hey, what should we do in this cool new country?
And who?
Madison, Jefferson, Monroe, Hamilton. They're all writing under like pseudonyms. And they're like kind of playfully civil discourse talking shit to each other about that's a dumb idea. This is what we should do. And they're having these like letters back and forth to each other about how they should create this new country. And they're talking about voting rights. And they were talking about women. And then one of them talked about ancient Greece, why women weren't allowed to vote was because the thought is that their man is already going to do what they want anyway. So if women get to vote, it's basically like giving women two votes.
2 votes.
So
Wow.
that was their idea.
Wow.
So their idea was like they're too powerful. They're already going to get what they want anyway. We can't tip the scales, So now obviously that's probably bullshit.
No,
but-
it's not actually. Oh my gosh, did you guys see Justin Trudeau on Bill Maher?
Oh my God.
Okay, so he got when you can tell, we talk about authenticity a lot on this podcast, and
Yeah.
I think it's
You can tell when someone's
You can-
inauthentic and it's
right,
fucking
there's
stinks.
something
You can
off.
smell it through the TV.
So he is politicking smooth. He is born and bred for what he's doing. But then there's
Almost
this
threw
moment.
my phone.
He was so good. He was so good that it was frustrating. Like you had nothing. You could like throw nothing back at him. But then he does this thing where he kind of lets off this steam and he goes on this rant. And it wasn't like what he had been doing before. There was an incongruency there. And you're like, well, what is that? That doesn't seem like him.
It's the real lizard
and
coming
then
out.
no, Eric goes, that's his wife coming out.
Ooh.
That's not his rage and his outrage. That's his wife. So he starts going online and he starts looking up Trudeau's wife. Or not Trudeau, I'm sorry. Newsom.
I know what you're saying,
Yeah, I don't know
I knew
why
what you were
said
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Newsom, Gavin Newsom. So he looks up Newsom's wife, and then she's doing this interview, and she's terrible at it, and she is just like, we need to get someone who is LGBTQ plus S2 BIPOC in the office. But until then, we would love to be advocates. And like she's going off on this intersectionality tangent, and you're like, that was her. So absolutely, the toxic version of that is a man who is too easily swayed and doesn't have his own self and like his own ground that he's standing on, and then you can kind of take on too much of the feminine. But I think you need both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could even say that, like, what they were talking about with Justinian, too, was like, hey, man, then this is things that they were talking about that back then was like, is the pussy good enough to give up your throne? Like, is it that good? Like, because back then, you were judged by who your family, like, copulated with, right? You're from the house of XYZ. You're from, a once great house that has fallen into ill repute. So just by who you would marry, divorce was remarkably common in the Roman Empire. So you could be married, and then my wife could die, and then I could proposition you, and your husband would basically just have to be like, no, I get it. It's a better deal. And that's kind of like how it would go. Like, yeah, no, I get it. It's Pompeii. Fine.
Yeah.
Go be Pompey's mistress. Mick, why do you think, especially with fighters, but just American males, why do you think the Roman Empire is like thought of in such high regard?
I think kind of what you said, how you can kind of take your own, you're kind of like manifest your own destiny, so to speak. You can kind of grab life by the balls. You know what I mean? You're not, you can rise like Theodora did. She started out in the streets, started out very lowly and rose herself up to being the empress. Actually what I was thinking about was how you mentioned like, the alpha males and, the red pill types with their, wanting their harems. And here's an example of the leader of, Rome with taking counsel with his woman.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that, and we were speaking the other day about how like that, the red pill thing, they believe, they should have a harem and all that stuff. I think if you have, I can say from personal experience, when I've had like been dating a girl that I didn't like that much or didn't, you know what I mean? I wanted another girlfriend. And I wanted like a harem. I wanted multiple girls. But then when I have a girlfriend that's like strong and that I respect and that I really love, I don't have that desire anymore. My hands are full because of I see all of her gifts and all that she offers. You know what I mean?
You're satisfied.
Yeah.
She satisfies you.
Yeah.
Where before you were unsatisfied.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean sexually.
I think no, it doesn't. Not at all. It's so much more than that. You know what I mean? It's so I think that's I think the people who are desiring a harem are unsatisfied with who they're with. They're not happy in that scenario, and that's why they're desiring these other things.
Or they're projecting their insecurity as a positivity, meaning that why do they want a harem? Do they actually want 10 women? That's a fucking lot.
It's a lot, man.
But you want other people. You want the external validation. You want other people to go, damn, that dude's got a harem. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you're young, again, that goes back to the Marcus Aurelius. I think that's the earliest sign of immaturity, man. When you see some of these Jordans, or you see like, oh damn, this dude gets a lot of bitches. Like at 21, wow, this dude's got it. But then at like 35, you look at the dude who's got a wife and she rides for him. They got a house. They got 2-ply fucking toilet paper inside that house. Man, this motherfucker's killing it, dude.
Even if you look at The Godfather, which I think the mafia stuff is kind of reminiscent of the ancient Rome stuff. Where people are taking, are not allowing themselves to be oppressed by anyone. They're not taking any rules. They're like, I'm gonna do my own thing in this life. I'm gonna take heed and take stock of my own life, and I'm gonna aspire how I want to.
Well,
But in that, Sonny was a little bit of a playboy. They looked down on him. Johnny Fontaine, playboy, looked down on him. Kind of like, you're not a real man. You know?
Real man takes care of his family.
Yeah.
Real man, because again, it goes back to that.
And he doesn't give in to those weak urges.
There you go.
You know what I mean? He has discipline. Yeah, you might want to fuck, but then we're talking about kind of that sexual transmutation, which we talk about in Outwitting the Devil and what's the other one? Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Using that energy to do real things, real shit, not just going and having a fleeting fucking dick pleasure moment. You know?
And the resources as well. I get what you're saying completely. And again, it's one of those things when you're younger, you don't really understand the value in these things. But I would play with a lot of guys. And they were serial cheaters. I was a serial.
Play ball with guys?
Yeah, I would play with guys, and yeah, I was a serial. We all roam, but I was a serial cheater myself, man, serial womanizer, and you don't realize to the external world what that looks like. You know, when you've made a commitment to somebody, and then you'll throw away that commitment on a whim. It's the same. I think it's the same reason people look at obese people and they're like, you just have no discipline, right? You're a glutton. You know, it's one of those 7 deadly sins. You look at somebody and you're like, and then you wonder, okay, like, how am I going to do business with this person? Or like, what's it like if they're willing to do that with her? I think this was the whole thing with like Bill Clinton, right? Like this was the argument, although it was probably just political assassination. But the argument was, if he's willing to do this to his wife,
what's he going to do to us?
What's he willing to do to us, right? Like if he's willing to do this in the Oval Office. Now we all think rich, powerful men are doing this anyway, whether they are or not, right? But the fact that he was so brazen about it and then lying about it in that way and kind of like looking at it like, guys, do we know who John Kennedy is? Why the fuck am I up here? Like, what's going on? Yeah, times are changing, right? But to a certain degree, it's hard.
John Kennedy was getting caught, and this is way before phones and social media, and he was getting snagged all over the place.
Yeah.
There's so much. J. Edgar Hoover had probably hours of tapes of him fucking for 4 minutes at a time. You know what I mean?
There's a pretty compelling case to be made that the Kennedys gave Marilyn Monroe a gag order, and she threatened to break it, and they were like, sucks to hear about your overdose.
Yeah.
That's going to happen tomorrow. Call here again.
Do you think Bobby was fucking her too?
No, John pushed it off. He ain't no fun that the homies can't have none. He was like, yo.
So Bobby was, you're saying?
Apparently, yeah. That's
See, I heard Bobby was more like, with this, like he had like 11 kids. Like he was he was more of the
family man,
yes. More of like the actual like figure that John should have been.
My understanding of the story goes, Bobby basically was John's caretaker. John would get drunk, Bobby would put him away, you know, like, even though he was his younger brother, kind of big brother.
Run PR for him, all that shit.
So part of apparently...
He was much more religious as well.
One of the last calls Marilyn Monroe ever made was, like, to the White House handler. And was like complaining about the fact that I don't want to be with Bobby. Bobby doesn't love me the way you love me. And Bobby might have just been like,
Couldn't resist.
No, the opposite. Come over here and sit in the fucking corner. You're not going to be with John. Like,
Okay.
you know, like you're here.
Hopped on that grenade.
Yeah. But like maybe not even fucking her even. Just like stay the fuck in your seat. Don't do
Yeah.
anything stupid. Right. And, you know, because the last time she called the White House, I mean, just imagine this being the White House during the Cold War. Marilyn Monroe's calling up and Jackie actually answers the phone.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting here like, who's this? You know who it is. I'm the one that sang the fucking birthday song to your husband while not breaking eye contact and fingering myself under the table. That's me. And Jackie's like, yo, that's it. I'm leaving. And that was like apparently the
I heard
last
Jackie
big
had
blow.
him shot. I'm just kidding.
He's going to be in Dallas.
Your brain,
Oh,
you're just like, whoa.
I didn't hear that one. I was excited. But going back to the Roman thing, when I did Mafia States, it was very interesting listening to these guys because you think it's bullshit. The whole like Mafia is Roman. I fucking promise you, these guys kind of believe that shit. They believe they're part of this secret society that traces so all their bad shit that they do, they kind of justify. This is a part of a secret society that has noble origins that traces its roots all the way back to the Roman Empire. Before there was police, you know, we were the ones that protected the people from the empire. We were the ones that ran the Aventine Hill, and that's what we do. We protect our community. You know, we police the police. That's how they see themselves. Now you can make the argument whether that's bullshit or not, but that's the argument these guys are making. You know, the blood, the oath, the eagle. Now you know that obviously we get the we get the eagle from Rome, but Rome was originally the wolf, right? And do you know how Rome was founded?
No.
Oh, do you know how Rome was founded?
Romulus and Remus.
Romulus and Remus. All right,
That was after the Trojan War, right? They split out and they went. We were talking about kind of going into maybe a little bit of the Trojan War.
Yeah.
Even though that's more ancient Greece, but it is the impetus of Rome. Kind of came after that.
Yeah. So raised by a she-wolf.
Who was the guy?
Suckled on them.
Who was the guy who's credited for? Is he the father of Romulus and Remus?
Yes,
Is it like,
but
what was
it
his
was like
name?
his uncle or father. It goes back and
someone
forth.
with a-
It's the Moses story, basically.
That's what I said.
It's Moses.
Yeah.
And they put him in the
Yes,
basket.
put him in the basket.
Gets
Yeah.
found by a she-wolf, which also could have just been a feral barbarian woman, and is raised. Now here's where this is all obviously mythology. Romulus and Remus, they end up fighting. They can't figure out who's the king,
Cain
so
and
they
Abel.
have it out. Cain and Abel, exactly. Romulus wins. Romulus. Now here's where it gets good. All of that origin story, whatever. This is what is actually real. They were outcasts. Rome was all
Aeneas. That was the guy who
Aeneas.
escaped from Troy, and he was considered I think he might have been Romulus's father or some shit like that.
If only we had a
fact check
producer
me
to
there.
look it up.
Fact check me there, you curly haired sexy motherfucker.
But they had no women. They had no women, right? So they threw a big party.
I'm feeling very Roman.
They threw a big party and they were like, "Hey neighbors, come out! We got this cool new place called Rome. We're throwing a barbecue. You guys are gonna love it. Bring your wives, your daughters. You know, I don't know, sisters, something. Yeah, come on out. It'll be great." And the people came to the party and they kidnapped all the women.
Oh my God.
They kidnapped all the women, and it took a year. Shockingly enough, for the elders and the family members in the surrounding city states to be like, where'd all the women go?
Where them bras at? Where the bitch is at?
Where they
Where
at?
the bitch
And then
is
they
at?
realized that they were being held captive at Rome. So they got this huge coalition army together to go march on Rome, right? And punish them for what they did. And as these armies are going on Rome, and Rome's like, all right, fuck it. Y'all want the smoke? Let's do it. It was the captured women who came out between their new lovers, Stockholm syndrome maybe, I don't know, and their old families, and they said, "No, these are our men now. This is our life now. Be nice." And that is kind of how the Roman Empire started, through fire and diplomacy. This is the legend of the Roman Empire.
While we're still on the Empress, do you know how, and this also goes back to a couple episodes ago, we were talking about modernity and tearing down like the old figures who, judging them on our modern rules versus how they acted. You know how a lot of marriages became? A man would go out, see a girl, take her, rape her, and whichever girl he fucked him the best, he would keep, and that'd become his wife.
What? When
That's
is
true.
that?
Ancient times. Look that shit up. That's real shit.
Really?
Yeah.
He's like, I like this one.
He's like, he'd take
It's like
her
trying
and
on
then
shoes at Marshall's.
It was a lot like that. It was a lot like that. Yeah, fucked up. It was a Cold War world, brother.
Okay, it's a cold world, and this is how do you think you would have done in the Roman Empire? What do you think you would have been an empress? What do you think?
I think we all think the best of ourselves, right? We're like, I'd go
anybody
back and
in
I'd
like their
crush
past
it.
life was never anything shitty. Everyone was something that's like, I was like a gunslinger. I was you might have been a janitor, motherfucker. My old life, I was the king. I was King Henry. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, dude. Yeah.
So, okay, then who do you see yourself in any person, not Roman, but in any person of antiquity? Antiquity. Do you see anybody? And you see yourself in anybody? Do you see yourself in any? Right.
Like romanticize the time period and putting superimposing myself onto like Cleopatra or something like that. Well, yeah, obviously Cleopatra. I think every woman is like, oh my gosh, that's a fascinating woman because she just she was the ultimate seductress, right? Like she did what she had to do to stay alive, and not only that, just like crushed it, was thriving.
Yeah,
had
Caesar's baby, walked around Rome with her Greek Egyptian baby, like this is gonna be your emperor, and all the Romans were like,
yeah, she's kind of a baddie, huh?
Shit, and then Caesar dies. And what does she do? She
hooks up with Mark Antony.
She gets the general. She gets the number 2. Caesar's old number 2. She's like, guess what? You've been called up to the big leagues, friend. Has babies with him. And then they see the walls closing in. What did she do at the end? I don't know. She faked her death so he would kill himself.
Romeo and Juliet.
That's what happened? Wow.
Yes. And then was so overcome by grief, apparently, that then she took her own life with the ass. She
faked her own death to get him to kill herself?
Yes, the idea was that she was going to make a deal with, spoiler alert, for anybody that doesn't know
history,
for 2,000 years ago, she was going to make a deal with Augustus, Octavian.
Is that Caesar's nephew?
Yes, well, second cousin technically. It was like his niece's son. But yes, by all intents and purposes, his nephew, who he took as an adopted son.
So he was Caesar Augustus?
Caesar Augustus. He was neither. Those are both names. He is Octavian Iulii.
Okay.
And then Caesar Augustus was like his term. He took the nickname Caesar. He declared Caesar, or Caesar actually declared himself a living god, which is a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, I think if I was like anyone, it'd be like Caesar.
Is that right?
No, I was trying to be a dick since you're like, he named himself a living god.
You are very charming. Caesar, most of what we know about Caesar, we get from Caesar.
Right. He was running a dope-ass PR campaign way back when.
Caesar was like the first IG influencer. So all these stories we know are like just Caesar being like we know Caesar killed 1 million Gauls. Some would call that a genocide. He called it a conquest. Got a triumph for it. Big parade. Marched Vercingetorix, or Vercingetorix, however you want to say it, naked all the way through the Alps, and then paraded him. Kept him alive for I think 10 years, you can look it up, Christian, and then murdered him on the anniversary of his 10th anniversary of his conquest of Gaul as a big present to himself.
Yes.
So
yes. He loved him.
Yeah, I think he choked him. I think he choked him to death with his bare hands on the 10th anniversary. So thanks for that. But real quick, Caesar once was kidnapped as a teen by pirates. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he was held ransom. So if this was ever going to be a Mickey thing, if there was ever a chance that you were Caesar, he was held
But not all the conquering and the fucking strangling?
No,
I've strangled a lot of people.
You'd be more Spartacus. You'd be more hands-on. But the, rules? Nah, I think I'll just fucking rebel. But he gets kidnapped. And he gets held for ransom, and he finds out how much he's being held for ransom for, And he starts yelling at the pirates. He goes, "What are you, fucking nuts? I'm worth way more than that. Are you insane?
We need to
that
up those.
shit.
These are rookie
What
numbers.
is this, a joke?"
These are rookie numbers.
And he becomes like friends with the pirates. Pirates are like, this guy's got
guy's
fucking
dope.
balls. We like this guy. And he's like, dude, let me tell you, my family's so wealthy. Keep asking for more. And then like, I like you guys. After they give you the money, let's go around the Mediterranean. They're like, yeah, man, you got it. So they get the money, and they're like, Caesar, buddy, well, we'll come back around. He's like, yeah. Fucking kill these guys. And he has them all beheaded right there by his people. So they gave the ransom, and he immediately turns on them, beheads all of them, and goes, you fucking assholes, wasting my time. Don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
Caesar was a fucking wild guy, man.
I got the article right here.
Speaking of...
Pull it up, good.
All right.
Sorry,
Sorry
man.
to
That's
cut
all
off
good.
your,
I have
your
it.
segue.
You're teeing me up so nicely, but...
Caesar made himself at home among the pirates, bossing them around and shushing them when he wanted to sleep. He made them listen to speeches and poems that he was composing in unanticipated downtime and berated them as illiterates as if they weren't sufficiently impressed. After 38 days, the ransom was delivered and Caesar went free. Astonishingly, Caesar managed to raise a naval force in Miletus, despite holding no public or military office, and he set out in the pursuit of the pirates. He found them still camped on the island where he had been held and brought them back as captives. When the governor of Asia seemed to vacillate about punishing them, Caesar went to the prison where they were being held and had them all crucified.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, no, we'll wait for the trial. About that. Another great thing about Caesar, and I don't know, great thing or less well-known thing. Apparently bisexual.
Wasn't
I'm out.
that common though?
Yeah. So another reason that Mick is like Caesar. Yeah,
You keep laughing over there, Chris.
You can look, Chris. Look this up, man. There was
They were all like that back then, right?
Well, there was like a joke.
It was considered kind of manly to have like a boy lover back
to
then.
be the giver, not the taker. Very much like modern day Dominicans. But there was like an inside joke that the Romans would tell if you weren't in Caesar's legions. If they would like we say the Navy's gay or something like that, but like if an army guy says that, it's hilarious. But if you say it from outside the army, they're like, don't you fucking talk about that. The Romans kind of did that shit too. If you weren't in one of Caesar's legions,
firefight is a quiz.
So there was like a saying that they had that was like there was a king in Asia. Fuck, I'm forgetting his name, but their Roman saying would be let's just call it I don't know, Asia Minor, right? But it was, then let's say the king was fucking Candosian, all right? So they would chant this as they marched, and it would be like, Caesar conquered Candosia, but Candosian conquered Caesar. And that's like what they would march as, the idea of like he conquered the land, but the king conquered him. And that's like how he didn't have to fight. They did the diplomacy thing. It was like, hey, you could be part of Rome. And the king was like, yes, but I have stipulations. Who knows what's real?
Well, speaking of that possibly bisexual, cold-ass honky Caesar. He's got some dope quotes.
Damn, that's a cold-ass honky.
You must break the law, do it in order to seize power. In all other cases, observe it. It is easier to find men who will volunteer to die than it is to find those who are willing to endure pain with patience. I would rather be the first man in a village than the second man in Rome. What we wish to be true, we readily believe, and what we ourselves think, we imagine others think as well. I love the name of honor more than I fear death. You must break the law.
Yeah, I love those. So the second quote isn't exactly accurate. They're going through Gaul, and as people are getting sick of going through nothing, woods, fucking the barbarian, they're going through nothing, and they come across a village finally after like 4 days of marching, and they're like, oh my god, look how gross this place is. This is like they got no plumbing. These people are barbarians. And Caesar goes, I would rather be a leader here than number 2 in Rome. And it just like, it showed them exactly like who he was. Like, I would rather rule this shit village. I'd rather be the number 1 here than be the number 2 in the greatest empire on earth. And that's really the quote that, kind of like let his people know, like, bro, there's only one way this thing ends.
So it kind of seems like the opposite of Marcus Aurelius. Like, it seems like a whole lot of ego.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's no transcendence happening.
No,
Caesar.
Okay, so let me defend Caesar for a second, because Caesar was a child during a civil war. So the first Roman civil war with Sulla and Marius,
Sulla won.
Eventually. Yes.
But was Sulla the one who had him and was like gonna kill him? And was like Caesar basically like kind of like asked for his life, blah blah blah. And Sulla was like
Caesar didn't.
Caesar didn't.
Caesar did not. Caesar came in looking like you. So Sulla had these he literally put out what was it? Conscription? I forget.
Conscription.
I
could not say that.
He basically gave people like a 24 hours. All right. Anybody who doesn't submit to my rule within 24 hours is my enemy. And anybody who kills my enemy and brings them to me, I'll give you 100 denarii or whatever. So these people were hunted down, right? And Caesar's family backed Marius. So people were now begging for other people's lives. Let's say that you were on Team Sulla and your team won. And now my name is on the prescription list, but you were like, don't kill Gerard. He's a great guy. And you make the case for me, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm supposed to show up humbled, both shoulders covered, full tunic. Please don't kill me, Sulla. So you go and you advocate for Caesar's life over here. Caesar shows up. One-shouldered toga was like the pants sagging of its day, not making
the one-shouldered toga. That's how he came.
Yeah, like a baggy one-shouldered toga was like.
See, bro, I am Caesar. I just did this naturally. I didn't even know that.
There it is. And so Sulla, they're begging for this dude Caesar's life, and Caesar won't even beg for his own life. He's like, whatever, do it. I don't give a shit. He's like 19 years old at the time. Caesar's a bad motherfucker, man. Caesar, say what you want about him, but Caesar was a calculating, cold, manipulative. He was the ideal dictator. He took over. Now, why he's so beloved by so many people for so long, he actually did take over power and do great things for the masses. He did works programs. And that's kind of my thing. When Caesar was dictator, you would have had a year and a half.
That's kind of my thing with Trump, is where I believe he's a megalomaniac enough where he wants to take over and egocentric, where he's like, I'm gonna do great. I'm gonna do great things. I'm gonna be the best president ever. It's the best. You know what I mean? Like, totally. I think he would be selfless. Like, there's a thing I saw where the past 6 presidents, their net worth rose as they were in power. Trump's fell. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a self-interest thing. His self-interest is being the best, being legendary, being remembered as something great. So I see a similarity there between those two guys. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that appeals to me about Trump.
Mm-hmm. The best form of government, the single best form of government, is a benevolent dictatorship. The problem is, as Rome points out,
no one lives forever.
And there's not often...
Any man could die.
And not often dictators tend not to be benevolent.
Right.
I think there was like a Roman saying like, oh, it's the 6th emperor. Thank God, it's going to be a good one. Like 1 in 6 was good. Like they would say like 1 out of every 6 emperors is a good emperor. So like after Nero, Caligula, like, oh, okay, we got Germanicus. All right, and then he dies. It's 5 more to go.
5 more shitty ones.
Yeah. So, but the best form of government, by far, the most efficient form of government.
Heard you talk a lot about government. Never heard you say that.
It's a benevolent dictatorship, but find the type of person who wants to be dictator.
Wasn't there a period of time
and you won't find somebody benevolent
where the person they were appointed dictator in Rome?
Consul, 2 consuls, 1 year. Yeah.
I think that's kind of a thing where it's like, I think a reluctant leader is the best. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not anyone who wants to be like, I want to be fucking head honcho.
Yeah.
Eliminated.
There was the greatest emperor is a guy named Cincinnatus. And he literally just
named Cincinnati after him.
Cincinnati. He just literally wanted to be a farmer. And he would come, they would have problems. They'd go out, find him on his farm. Be like, Cincinnatus, we need your help.
It's kind of like George Washington.
That's what I was thinking.
Washington wanted to be Cincinnatus. Yeah, but Cincinnatus was like, ugh. 7 times they elected him, and the last 5 times he was like, for fuck's sake,
this is the last one.
Want to be a farmer, man. Like, how do you guys keep fucking this up? Like, what are we doing here?
Can I tend to my crop?
Jesus Christ. Do you know how much it stinks in Rome? It stinks. The smell is putrid. There's so many humans. Leave me alone on my farm. All right, I'm going to fix it for you guys, and this is the last time. 7 times. 7 times. Yeah.
Poor guy.
That's the argument against fuck, Alpha Brain's not working.
You took one too?
No. We're never getting
Obviously
an Alpha Brain
not.
sponsorship. That's the argument against term limits. The argument against term limits is why would you ever want the good ones to leave? There's so many more bad ones. Like voting should be term limits. It's on us to see someone and vote them out. That was the idea. That's the idea of the 4 years, 2 years, 6 years between the different.
But if we had grassroots campaigns, if everything was these people going to their constituents, making a case, it wasn't about who had the bigger purse or like all of the oligarchs behind them, then sure. But the fact of the matter that it's a couple $100 million to run for president.
Oh my God.
Something like that.
Oh yeah.
Why?
It's getting worse.
What do you mean why? Go on some fucking podcasts, go to a couple towns that are swing states, have some pressers, but like why do you need that much money? That's concerning.
Isn't that on us again? Like
What
Vivek
are we
Ramaswamy
supposed to
did
do
everything
about
right.
it?
He got 8%. Like Vivek Ramaswamy went from nobody knows who he is to, wow, I like this guy in 2 months basically, and he went from 0 to 8%.
Why do you think it was so low? And honestly, Kennedy's doing great.
He's doing fantastic.
Yeah, he's doing double digits.
Well, I'll tell you.
As an independent.
Do you remember Ron Paul when he ran for president?
I do not know. I like him though.
Ron Paul ran for president, and they actually started talking about Vivek Ramaswamy getting quote unquote the Ron Paul treatment. Ron Paul was polling at like 20% at some points, and they just refused to say his name.
Wow.
They refused to. They refused to. And I'm not talking about like Democrats. I'm talking about Fox News. I'm talking about the supposed Republicans.
They're doing that to Kennedy.
Yes,
You know?
he's getting the Ron Paul treatment.
Yeah.
Ron Paul was on the debate stage, and they wouldn't even say his name. They'd say the congressman from Texas.
No way.
I swear, look it up.
Whoa.
And you know who brought attention to it of all people? Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart at the Daily Show back when that really meant something. Christian, see if you can bring up Jon Stewart and Ron Paul.
He back.
Yeah, he's coming back on the Daily Show.
Back.
Wonder about that. What do you think of Jon Stewart? What's your thoughts on Jon Stewart?
I think he's captured.
Captured?
Totally captured.
What do you think of young Jon Stewart?
He asked
I
my
love
Aunt
him.
Colleen out.
Young what?
He asked my Aunt Colleen out.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
John
At-
Leibowitz?
Yeah. At Trenton State, your alma mater.
Went to the same college
in New
as
Jersey.
me?
I don't know. I know he was there.
No, he
though.
did. He was.
Oh, he did. All right.
Yeah, and he played apparently a very good soccer player, like all region soccer player or something.
My aunt thought he was a nerd.
Worked in the same branch of government I worked at in the governor's office. Apparently worked in the same room I worked in. But yeah,
Shit.
there you go. From
No, yeah, I
Lawrenceville,
liked
from
him back
Lawrenceville, New
in the
Jersey.
day.
He was great. He was very refreshing. But then I think before
I
he
loved
got,
him in Big Daddy. He played Kevin Garrity.
before yeah,
Great guy.
Great guy.
great guy, Kevin Garrity.
He knocked up that chick in Canada and did the right thing. When he found out,
Became a dad.
took young Julian in.
Took him in.
Julian from Julius Caesar.
Bring it back around. Before he got captured, though, I think he kind of unwittingly did something that really fucked up political culture in America, in that he made the crossover between politics and comedy unavoidable, and then also started doing the Mott Bailey stuff. Do you know
What's
what
that?
So Mott and Bailey, you're familiar with Mott and Bailey debate?
No.
It's like the worst. It is the worst form of arguing in bad faith or debating in bad faith. It's called Mott and Bailey, where the old Mott and the Bailey, going back to castles, is there would be like the Mott where everybody would like hang out at the city center, and then if that got captured, they would retreat back to the Bailey as like the last resort. So the Mott Bailey is like, I say something, I do something, and then you attack me for being wrong or you prove me wrong, and then I retreat back to the Bailey going, oh, I'm just a comedian, like don't take it seriously what I'm saying. So like he literally can never, he'll say something, and if you're like, wow, that's a great point, and he'll be like, yeah, what are you talking about? I make great points. And if you say something else, you're like, dude, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I'm just a comedian, don't take me seriously. So he can never be wrong. And he created this generation of, I'm always right, I'm smarter than you. If you don't believe what I believe, you're dumb liberals, right? He created this kind of like holier than thou, like culture of people that would communicate in this way. And that goes back to your civil discourse. How can you have civil discourse if only if everything somebody says is always fucking right and always fucking smart, and if you disagree, you're the asshole every time. Eventually, you're either gonna have it out with this guy, or you're gonna be like, I just don't want to fucking talk to this guy no more. You know, like every time you talk to somebody on a college campus, it's like, okay, I'm the idiot.
Yeah, I was hopeful with his new show, and I watched a few episodes, and then I think it was he did a trans episode on trans kids, quote trans kids, and I couldn't get on board. He was just there to do gotchas. He thought he knew everything, and if you're not willing to medicate a kid with an insane amount of hormones that we have no idea what it's going to do and chop them up and maim them, then you're the bad guy, really. So
He said that?
yeah, so fuck
I'm
that
glad
guy.
my Aunt Colleen said no.
Yeah, the benevolent dictator thing, like
There we go.
somebody like Ron Paul would do amazing things. You know, Javier Milei, well, let's see how that plays out in Argentina. I think a Robert Kennedy, like 10 years run the country would be great. And then you wouldn't have all this crap.
Isn't that guy a WEF guy though?
Who?
Boleh?
The Argentinian.
Oh, well,
Argentinian
do you think he's a plant? I hope not, man.
I don't know. I saw a lot of people pointing that he is a speaker / attender of the WEF.
Well, he just went to the WF and flamed them to their face. He just said all of you people are the problem. I mean, he could be a problem, but he just, he flamed them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, this is the same things that's happening now happened back then. The Gracchi brothers basically tried to invent communism back then, and they got murdered for it by the elite class. Yeah, they tried to do they were like, hey, we got a lot of shit. Why don't we just all split it? Wouldn't that be happy? Like everybody, we have 1 million people, we have 1 million acres, everybody gets an acre. Like, let's go. And the Senate was like, can we have a word with you guys over here?
In the back.
Yeah. Love Roman history.
A lot of people love Roman history, G. And a question that's been in the zeitgeist has been, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And the origin of that is right here.
How many times, like a week, or just how many times in general, do you think about the Roman Empire?
What about the Roman Empire?
Just anything about it.
Probably not a lot. Why?
Not a lot? When was the last time you
He's
thought
answering like she's accusing him of
Maybe
cheating.
A week or two ago?
How often do you think about other girls?
The Roman Empire was a very big part in history.
So how often do you think about it?
Not a lot.
How often? Once every month?
Maybe 3 or 4 times a month.
You think about the Roman Empire once a week.
It has a lot of big stories and lessons within the Roman Empire of what to do and what not to do. So yeah.
So you think about the Roman Empire once a week?
Sometimes, yeah. But not necessarily.
He's like, stop recording me.
I think about the Roman Empire way more than once a week.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you think? Because when that came out, I tried to think about it too, and I've been watching Rome lately, so I'm thinking about it a lot.
Oh, I love that show. Show's so
But
good.
yeah, you got me onto that.
I
You got me
love
onto
that
that. Yeah, I don't know. I probably do at least once a week, in some capacity.
Candice, what is your Roman Empire? What's the thing that you? Oh, you love Game of Thrones.
I do love Game
You know
of
who the
Thrones.
Roman Empire is in the Game of Thrones?
What do you mean?
The Roman Empire is in the Game of Thrones.
Really?
Roman Empire is in Game of Thrones.
So it's got to be King's Landing, right?
Nope, it's London.
Oh, because you're saying because the maps?
Shit.
No, this is so George R.R. Martin basically said everything in.
It's all based off of history.
It's all
like
allegorical.
The War of the Roses. Not the what are they called? Not the sand.
The Dornish?
Yeah, not the Dornish.
Christian, do you know?
I feel like I have a guess.
Give it to
Who
me.
you got?
The Boltons?
The Boltons?
No?
No.
No? Okay.
The Targaryens are Romans.
Right. They're the originals.
And the doom of Valeria is the fall of Rome.
Ah.
And they came over with their dragons,
Mhm.
their legions, the Roman legions. And the Roman legions have since fallen out. The wall, Hadrian's wall. Emperor Hadrian, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. You think about Rome a lot more than you think.
I do. I guess I think about it a lot.
They had a lot of big inventions. You guys think of some? The Romans? Yeah.
Roads, aqueducts, indoor plumbing, orgies,
plumbing, concrete buildings,
trebuchets,
the Julian calendar,
the Julian calendar,
the Julian.
So July, right?
Advertising,
July.
trademarks,
Caesar salad,
August,
fast
Augustus. Caesar salad, actually, believe it or not.
Caesar salad. I missed that one.
It's just a guy. It's just a guy in Mexico. I was so disappointed.
Really?
It's just a guy
his
who
name
worked.
is
It was a
Caesar?
guy named Caesar who worked at a resort in Mexico. I was like, I thought this was like, wow, Julius Caesar loved romaine lettuce. No,
Yeah.
there's a dude working at a
Romaine,
resort.
Roman.
Yeah, romaine.
no.
Holy, maybe that's a lie. I don't know.
I thought Rebecca Romaine Stamos invented it, but whatever.
Rebecca Romaine Stamos. John Stamos flamed her in that tell-all.
Oh, are they not together anymore?
No. Damn. It's just Rebecca Romaine.
See how,
I thought it was Rebecca Romaine. It's Romaine? I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
but
never
John
should've brought
Stamos
it up.
accused her of like being verbally abusive and cheating and all these other things.
Men don't usually do tell-alls.
I know.
Huh.
John Stamos apparently, I always liked Uncle Jesse. I don't believe Uncle Jesse to be a liar. All right, Rebecca? I loved you in The Punisher. I think you were okay in X-Men.
I don't know who the woman is.
Rebecca Romaine Stamos?
Can you put up a picture?
Yeah, she was a Sports Illustrated cover model. Very beautiful woman. Like
Rest
very
in peace of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, like very late 90s hot, like the Sharon Stoney looking, tall, buxom blonde, long. Well, maybe not as buxom as I remember.
Oh, yeah. She's pretty.
Yeah. She was Mystique in X-Men.
Oh, she was so hot in that.
Oh, Mystique in X-Men.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jennifer Lawrence did a good Mystique, too.
That's right. Jennifer Lawrence was Mystique.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah. I always thought Halle Berry was fantastic as Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Halle Berry as Storm was very
I liked her as a Bond girl.
Halle Berry?
Yeah, that
Oh.
scene with her on the beach is iconic.
Walking out of the water?
Yeah.
I liked her in Swordfish,
Iconic.
too.
Of
with
course
the-
you did. Every guy liked her in Swordfish.
Halle Berry?
Yeah.
Halle
they like
Berry.
Showed her tetas.
Yeah.
Tatas. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Travolta was like full John Travolta in that movie, Starfish. My God. It's so funny.
I think we'd be remiss not to mention the modern day head of Stoicism, Ryan Holiday, in this episode. So I think we should throw up a short little clip of him kind of explaining Stoicism. What do y'all think?
Sure,
You all with me?
Take
Let's
us
hit
out,
it,
Ryan.
Christian.
The whole thing boils down to this one idea. There's some stuff that's up to us and some stuff that's not up to us. Epictetus says our chief task in life is this up to me or is this not up to me? And I know that seems really basic, but the truth is most people spend most of their time on stuff that's not up to them, right? We complain about stuff, we wish stuff was otherwise, we spend our time worrying about the future or regretting the past, and none of that is energy spent towards what we actually control, which is right now, what's right in front of us. So that's the idea. Is this up to me? Is this not up to me? And this dichotomy of control, as the Stoics say, what really the dichotomy of control is about is resource allocation. Are you going to spend your time and energy on things that are up to you or things that are not up to you? Every second you spend on something that's not up to you is wasted, and at least if you spend it on something that's up to you, it might make a difference.
Yeah, he's great. Ryan's great.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff. You can look into him.
So I guess all the time I've spent learning about the Roman Empire has been time wasted. Because nothing about the Roman Empire is up to me at all, so I've completely wasted. Actually, that checks out. Definitely checks out.
Well, speaking of checking out, we salute you. This has been Canceled Weekly, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the Roman episode.
Thank God that's over. I don't give a shit about the Roman Empire.